Okay, so what if I told you there's this specific writing protocol? It only takes 4 sessions, it's backed by like over 200 scientific studies, and get this, it has the power to improve not just your mental health, but your actual physical immune function. Yeah, today we're going to break down a simple writing exercise that has some truly surprising power. Let's get into it. And hey, it is not just me saying this. I mean, when a top neurobiologist from Stanford admits he was absolutely blown away by a simple writing method, well, that's when you know it's something you've got to pay attention to. This isn't just another wellness fad, It's a scientifically proven tool that has genuinely, and I mean genuinely, shocked researchers with how well it works. All right, so the very first thing we need to get straight is that this protocol, it's a completely different beast from the kind of journaling most of us think of. So, forget about writing down what you had for lunch or your daily gratitude list. This is something else entirely. And really, this contrast is everything. On one hand, you've got your common journaling, gratitude lists, writing about your day. And hey, that stuff is great. But on the other hand, you have what's called expressive writing. And its entire focus is on digging into your deepest thoughts and feelings about the most difficult, the most upsetting experiences of your life. It's intense, it's focused, and it's designed for a totally different reason. So what exactly is this method? Well, it's called the Pennebaker Protocol. It's named after Dr. James Pennebaker, who started scientifically proving this stuff worked way back in the 1980s. And you should really think of it less like a daily habit and more like a short, powerful prescription for your nervous system. Okay, now for this to actually work, the research is super clear. You have to follow the specific steps. So first, you pick your focus. We're talking about the single most upsetting or difficult experience of your life. Second, you just write about it continuously for 15 to 30 minutes. Don't worry about grammar, don't worry about spelling. The whole point is to just get out of your own head and let it all pour out. Third, you need to include the facts. What happened, the emotions you felt then, and what you feel now, and any connections you can make to other parts of your life. Fourth, you do this for the exact same event 4 times, say on 4 days in a row. And last, and this is maybe the most important part, this is for your eyes only. It's about processing, not performing. You can literally tear it up or delete the file when you're done. Okay, I have to give you a really important heads up here. This is not supposed to feel good while you're doing it. In fact, it's the opposite. The research consistently shows that people often feel pretty down, pretty distressed, both during and right after writing. So it is absolutely critical that you schedule some quiet time for yourself afterwards. We're talking maybe 10 or 15 minutes to just decompress and reset before you have to jump back into your day. Okay, so you go through this intense, kind of rough 4-day process. So what's the payoff? Why would you do this? Well, this is where the science gets truly, and I mean truly, mind-blowing. The benefits go way, way beyond just feeling a little better emotionally. And we know these benefits are legit. This isn't based on a couple of stories from people on the internet. We are talking about a mountain of evidence, over 200 peer-reviewed scientific studies, built up over decades. This thing has been tested and tested and tested again. I mean, the range of impact is just staggering. Seriously, studies have found major improvements in things you'd kind of expect, right? Like lower anxiety, better sleep. But then it gets wild. They've also found enhanced immune function. Your T cells, the little soldiers of your immune system, literally get better at fighting off invaders. And get this, people have reported relief from chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia and even reduced symptoms of autoimmune disorders like arthritis. All from a writing exercise? It's just incredible. You're basically lowering the chronic stress load that's been weighing your body down, and that frees up resources for it to start healing itself. Which, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question. How on earth can writing about a bad memory actually make your immune system stronger? Well, the answer is all about the science of stories, the science of narrative, and how our brains process or, more importantly, fail to process stressful stuff. So think about it like this. When something really stressful or traumatic happens, a key part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, that's the bit that handles logic and making sense of things, it kind of goes offline. It just powers down. And so the experience doesn't get stored as a neat story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Instead, it's stored as a bunch of broken, emotionally charged pieces, like a shattered vase. And our nervous system just keeps tripping over those sharp fragments, over and over again. And this is the magic of the protocol. By forcing yourself to write it all down, the facts, the feelings, the connections, you're basically forcing that prefrontal cortex to turn back on. It's like taking that jumbled box of puzzle pieces and finally, deliberately, putting them together so you can see the whole picture. You are literally telling your own nervous system the complete, coherent truth of what happened. This whole process is a fantastic example of something scientists call neuroplasticity. It's just a fancy word for the brain's ability to change and rewire itself. But here's the thing. For adults, our brains don't just change for no reason. They need a trigger, a signal, and that intense emotional state you get into during the writing, that's the signal. It's like a flare gun telling your brain, hey, pay attention, this is important, we need to change something. And then the actual rewiring, the real change, happens when you rest, especially during deep sleep. So let's put it all together. It's a simple 3-step process. First, you have the trigger. That heightened emotion from the writing exercise puts your brain on high alert, ready for a change. That's the spark. Then you have the action. The writing itself gets that prefrontal cortex working, building that coherent story. That's the hard work. And finally, you get the result. Your brain literally builds new neural pathways that make it better at managing stress. And that is what leads to all those incredible health benefits we talked about. That's the payoff. So all of this really leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about. We all carry around these stories of difficult times. And for many of us, some of those stories might still just be broken pieces, causing stress in the background of our lives day in and day out. What the science shows us is that by intentionally turning those fragments into a complete story, we can fundamentally change our own biology for the better. So the only question left to ask yourself is, what story does your nervous system need you to write?